Good morning and welcome to the State Department once again. I am so grateful that all of you have joined us here today for what has become, in our view, one of the most important and special occasions of the year here in Washington. I want to thank my friend and colleague, Ambassador Melanne Verveer, who has been, as you know, a tireless champion for women and girls for decades. Melanne and her team have not only made this event such a special occasion year after year, but they have helped put women and girls at the center of everything we do here at the State Department and in the Obama administration. So thanks again, Melanne, although it was left out of her mention of the 7th grade girls, that one of them is her granddaughter. So she is very committed to the next generation, and I thank you for everything you have done and will do. Now, why is this a special occasion? Well, for one thing, it is the way we mark International Women's Day, to gather leaders and activists, and particularly our honorees here in Washington, to recognize their remarkable achievements. And for the 4th year, we are so honored to be joined by the First Lady of the United States, Michelle Obama. Now, I do take a point of personal privilege in talking about the First Lady, because I have just an inkling of what her life is like every day. And I want to publicly thank her for being an inspiration for women and girls and families and communities here in the United States and around the world. It's always an honor to share a stage with her. And I think it's also a reminder that we have a lot of work to do. It is, of course, about the leadership and the voice of a First Lady or a Secretary of State, but it is much, much more than that. And what Michelle and I have tried to do in our own ways is to lift up the voices of others, because we want a great crescendo of voices. An international chorus that says clearly and unequivocally that women and girls deserve the same rights and opportunities as their fathers and brothers and sons. And today we will hear remarkable stories from our honorees. They come from diverse and distant places, but in one important way, they all walk the same path. They, too, are working tirelessly for justice. They are working for accountability. They are working for freedom. And they are working tirelessly to improve the lives of women and girls. Whether pushing for change in the halls of government in the Maldives, the courts of Saudi Arabia, whether making sure women have a voice in Libya's future and a role in Pakistan's government, whether enduring imprisonment or abuse for trying to assist other women and girls at risk, these women who you will meet today are all making a difference in the face of adversity, often under the threat of violence that is sometimes hard for those of us here in Washington or across our great country even to imagine. And while we honor them today, we know that tomorrow their work will and must continue, so that every woman and girl someday will have the opportunity to live up to her own God-given potential. As I often say, this isn't just the right thing to do, it is also the smart thing to do. Improving the lives of women improves the lives of their families, strengthens their communities, and does create more opportunities for economic growth and prosperity. We know that investing in women's employment, health, and education levels leads to greater economic growth across a broad spectrum. It also leads to healthier children and a better educated population overall. We know that political systems that are open to full participation by women produce more effective institutions and more representative governments. And we know that the work that so many of you do will be done day after day as it moves us closer and closer to realizing the vision of equality. As long as you are on the front lines of this struggle, the United States will be with you, and we will use every tool at our disposal to help you. That's why next week, when all of the United States ambassadors from around the world gather here in Washington, I will be issuing the first ever secretarial policy directive on gender. This guidance This guidance, which complements the recently released USAID gender policy, will instruct our embassies and bureaus to implement specific steps to promote gender equality and advance the status of women and girls in all of our work in order to further both our national security and our foreign policy goals. Now, this issue is not just a priority here at the State Department or at USAID, but across the administration. And that is why we are so pleased that the First Lady is here, lending her support. She and President Obama have made it absolutely clear that women and girls will be a focus of what we do here at home and around the world. Last year, Mrs. Obama traveled to South Africa and spoke at a forum for young women leaders from across Africa. And she told those bright young women that now is the time for their voices to be heard. For them and for so many others, she said that the power was in their hands to help usher in an era when women would no longer be second-class citizens, and they would be able fully to participate in open and accountable government. I cannot think of anyone better to carry that message and to signal America's commitment to advancing the rights and opportunities of women and girls. And I'm so grateful to both President and Mrs. Obama for all they have done to make this a priority. So please join me in welcoming our First Lady, Michelle Obama.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. To say it is a pleasure to be here with all of you today would be an understatement. This is truly an important opportunity. It is an uplifting opportunity, and I am happy to be a part of it every single year. And I have to start by thanking Secretary Clinton, not just for that very kind introduction, but she has been an outstanding, should I say that again, an outstanding Secretary of State. And she has been an inspiration to women and girls around the world. She is a role model for me in so many ways. I don't think she realizes how what she has done has made what I am doing partially possible. So with all the respect and admiration that I can give to her, I will be wherever she needs me to be whenever she needs me to be there. I also want to join in recognizing our special guest, First Lady Mills, who is a dear friend. We enjoyed our visit to Ghana. And she is going to have a productive stay here in Washington. So she's going to be busy. Just take it easy. And of course, Secretary Vanda Pignato, who is a dear friend as well. We are honored to have you with us as well. I also want to thank them for taking the time to be here today. It means so much to us all for you to be here. I have to thank Ambassador Melanne Verveer for her terrific work she is doing, what she is doing for global women's issues. This event is top-notch, and it wouldn't happen if not for her. We are so grateful. And of course, I want to recognize most of all the 10 women of courage that we're honoring here today. These women come from all different corners of the globe. They have taken very different journeys to this moment. But they are all here today because somewhere along the line, they decided they could no longer accept the world as it is. And they committed themselves to fighting for the world as they know it should be. They saw corruption and they worked to expose it. They saw oppression and they worked to end it. They saw violence, poverty, discrimination, and inequality. And they decided to use their voices and risk their lives to do something about it. And day after day, these women have stood up and said the things that no one else could say or would say. Year after year, they endured hardships that few of us could bear. At the age of 22, Zinmar Aung was imprisoned for 11 years simply for writing a letter demanding that the elected civilian government take power in Burma. When she was freed, she went right back to work, fighting for the rights of women and ethnic minorities and political prisoners. Shad Begum founded a women's NGO in Pakistan, and she ran for district council. When she won, she intended to use her position to improve health care and education, but when the council met, she was forced to sit in a separate side room behind a locked door. The microphone that was supposed to allow her to participate never worked. But undeterred, she decided to run for an even higher elected office, saying, and this is her quote, "Whatever it takes, I will make them hear me." And then there is Jeneth Bedoya Lima, an investigative journalist in Colombia. Back in 2000, when she was writing about an arms struggling network, she was kidnapped, brutally assaulted for hours by those who wished to silence her. But instead of backing down, she moved from her regional newspaper to a national one. And despite continued threats against her life, she kept reporting. She became a spokeswoman for a global campaign against sexual violence. And for 12 years, she's fought to hold her attackers responsible for their crimes. She has even taken her case all the way to the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, seeking justice not just for herself, but for women across her country. And that is why, despite the risks they face, despite the hardships they endure, these women carry on. Because they know that they are fighting not just for their own rights and freedoms, but for the rights and freedoms of so many others. That is why, despite daunting physical obstacles, Safak Pabe didn't just win a seat in parliament in her own country. She traveled to countries across the globe, winning support for the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. She lives her life by a simple motto. These are her words. Whatever you experience is an example to others. Whatever you experience is an example to others. The same can be said of Priscilla de Oliveira Acevedo. Despite being one of just a few women in the Rio de Janeiro military police, she has risen through the ranks, commanding more than 100 male officers. We love that. in one of the toughest communities in the city, and even arresting a gang of criminals who kidnapped her. Women of all ages have been inspired by her leadership. And of them, she says, again, a quote, "They see me as an example of the fact that any woman can work in any type of activity. It's just a question of wanting to do it." And that is why each year we invite young people to join us at this event. It is so important because we want them to learn from and be inspired by the example of these women of courage. We invite them because we want to say to them and to boys and girls across America that if, despite all the obstacles these women of courage face, if they are still running for office and running organizations and serving their communities and their countries, then surely you can find a way to follow your dreams. Surely you can find a way to give back to your community and to your country. If these 10 women can endure death threats and horrifying violence and years behind bars to stand up for what they believe in, then surely our young people can find a way to stand up for what they believe in. Surely all of you can overcome the obstacles you face in your own life. And I'm thinking particularly of Janeth Bedoya Lima and what she endured on that day 12 years ago. As her attackers assaulted her, they said to her, "Pay attention, we're sending a message to the press in Colombia." Well, today, with every story she writes and with every public appearance she makes, Janeth is sending her own message that she will not back down, that she will not give up, and she will never, ever allow her voice to be silenced. And it is the same message that all of these women are sending with every act of courage they commit. The message that injustice will not stand, that inequality will not be tolerated, and that they will not stay silent in the face of evil. And to all of those who are oppressed and abused and left out and left behind, they are saying, "I am standing with you. I am fighting for you. You are not alone." And on this International Women's Day, that is the very message I wish to send to these 10 women and others like them in every corner of the globe. On behalf of my husband and on our country, I want you to know that you are never, ever alone. The United States The United States of America stands with you, and we are so incredibly proud of everything that you have achieved. And we will continue to fight with you for the causes to which you have devoted your lives. So thank you all so much. Enjoy this day. Congratulations. God bless.